Hello everyone. Today's video is about introduction to Okta APIs and Postman collections. As you can see in this screen, these are the list of Postman collections which Okta shared with us, so that we can consume those APIs with the pre-configured Postman environment, like so that we don't have to manually construct the APIs or anything. We can configure them in the Postman with the for example, predefined sample request. Objects and the header values and everything. As you know, as we can do certain operations on the Okta admin console, the same operations can be done via the Okta APIs as well. Same in the sense it's almost everything can be done, but certain things can be done only via the front end. But this Okta admin console, as you can see here, is mostly used by the Okta administrators to do certain configurations, and Okta developers use API collections or Okta APIs to do certain operations or certain actions against Okta environment programmatically. They also can play around or do certain operations via the Postman or a curl request up to their choice. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to see how we can configure the Okta Postman collections in our Postman environment and make the APIs work. So if you click on one of the APIs, like as you can see, there are a list of APIs mentioned here, users API, user types API, which is the most familiar one for us, logs API, sessions API, policy API, log streaming API, identity providers, groups. This is user groups and domains, event hooks. What are the authentication APIs? What are the app APIs, API management related APIs, and everything. So if you can click here, you can see you can just by clicking here, you can open this in your local Postman application which is running, or else you can choose to run this on the browser. So I'm going to show it in the Postman application. So I have already uh, added some of the APIs, and I'm going to show how we can make this work. So here I have only added those APIs and I haven't done any configurations yet. So I will start from the beginning, step by step, in order to make the APIs work. As we are mostly familiar with the users API, I'm going to demonstrate how we can make the user API work, and some other APIs as well. So if you can see, if you are familiar with the Postman or curl request, you can see this is the URL of the API, and these are the headers. And since this is get API, there is no body. And if you can see, there are three variables or parameters mentioned here, and which we have to configure. So, one thing what we can do is we can replace the values directly from here and make it work. But instead, I'm going to show you how we can add the Postman environment to configure the values for these attributes or the keys, so that if in when we are working for an organization or anything, instead of replacing the same value for various different environments or various different other operations, we can make use of the environment variable um, uh, configured ones. So if you can see some other APIs, they also have URL, and if you can see the header, URL and API key is there. And if you open one other API from the inline hooks, URL is there and API key is there. So here URL is some which is that the Okta domain, against which Okta domain we are running these APIs, and let's open it again. And API key is the access tokens. Um, uh, stating that I have the access to access these particular resource. So, these API keys have certain responsibilities, or like when we are generating the API keys, we have to consider about the security concerns, like that we provide minimum required permission to the API keys. We can look at those things under the Okta administrators and API security. But today I'm going to show how we can generate the API key in general and how we can use it. Let's begin with configuring these attributes and make this get user work. So before I configure, when I trigger some errors shown, that's because these URLs are not replaced. And let's replace the values and run again. So to begin with, this is the organization URL which we are going to configure, and we haven't configured the environment yet. So let's create it first, and here I'm going to name it as demo, because I don't have any other environments to run. But if you're working for an organization, you might have dev, staging, and prod, and you can create one for each environment and configure the relevant uh, variables under those environments. But in my case, this is only one environment, so I'm just naming it as demo. So let's configure this. Add a variable, and here make sure that you choose the environment which you are going to use to run the APIs. And when you um, add a variable, you can choose in under which environment you want to add this variable value, um, and set variable. After you set, if you can go and see, the domain or Okta URL is already added. And API key. So in order to get the API key, let's go to the uh, Okta admin console and see. So under the security API and tokens, you can see there are two other tokens created here, and I'm going to create one more token uh, to demonstrate you. And this is demo one. When I create the token, this is the token value shown. Make sure that you copy this token at this window. Once you close this, there is no other way of uh, getting or seeing this token value. In case if you missed it, you have to create a new token and use it. Okay. So make sure that you are storing the tokens in a safer place. Like if it is in production or related to the environment, make sure that you are storing it in a secure place, such as like AWS Secret Manager or some secure vault. So I have already copied, and let's put this in the Postman environment collection. And yeah, this is shown, and make sure that you set this to secret those, so that the values will be hidden and you always can see this value from this Postman collection. Yep. So after we set this user ID, so what is a user ID? Let's go to the console and see. And if you can open one of the user, because here I already have a list of users, and if not, you can add a person from here and see to start with. And opening a random user here, and if you see it in the URL, there is one ID starting with 00U, U for user, and that's the user ID they mention. And let's replace that value inside the demo environment, set variable. Now we are set with all the um, placeholders, and let's execute this API and see. Yes, so this user is retrieved, and this is the user we we try to retrieve. As you can see, the user ID value we have configured is exactly the same return when we execute the APIs. And also, if you can see, we also can perform some of the operations, lifecycle operations in the admin console, like reset password and like multi-factor, suspend, deactivate, and other. And the same thing we can do via the APIs as well, which is returned from the return as part of the response body. And you can get, like, for example, if you want to deactivate the user, this is the endpoint you have to call as the post API, and you can deactivate the user. Similarly for other operations as well. um, exactly the same way we can perform other operations as well. Like, for example, if we open add groups, and if we add this group, then it will be able to add the group. Here, I don't have to set anything in the environment variable because the URL is already configured, and I have already set the API keys in the environment, so which is already available, and I just have to worry about my body or worry about what I'm actually doing here. So this user is sorry, this group is already being created. So thank you so much for watching this video. Today we have covered like how we can configure the Postman collections in the Postman, and how to make them work. And in the upcoming videos, I will demonstrate what are the admin users, what are the admin user permissions, and how we control the API key or the API token values in terms of their permissions, and which admin user should create which API key, and how we protect the API keys or the administrators without having them deactivated. And etc. And also we can play around with other APIs, like, for example, how we can create the users, how we can update the password, how we can activate the user, how we can add the user into a group, and how we can remove the user from the group, and how we can um, create an inline hook in Okta environment in order to, like, for example, password inline hook. If we don't have a password inside Okta, but we have the user password database somewhere out, and how we can import them through the inline hooks and etc. If you are interested in my video, and if you want to learn more about Okta or related to programming related stuff, please let me know. I will try to cover them in my upcoming videos.